Jesus as a brand, the political and economic exploitation of Christ in American introduction in the United States. Religion and commerce have long walked hand in hand. Christianity, and particularly the figure of Jesus Christ, has not only shaped the nation's moral compass, but has also been transformed into a cultural commodity. No other religious figure in American history has been used so extensively for political power and economic gain as Jesus. In today's America, Jesus has become more than a savior. He has become a brand. This branding has reshaped churches, politics, and consumer culture in ways that both reveal and distort the original spiritual message of Christianity. This essay explores the ways in which Jesus has been commodified and instrumentalized in the United States. It investigates how political leaders and institutions invoke his name for votes, how corporations profit from Christian imagery, and how the church itself often functions like a corporate entity. Ultimately, the essay argues that the transformation of Jesus into a brand undermines both democratic integrity and religious authenticity, raising pressing questions about the future of faith in America. 1. The origins of Jesus as a brand. The idea of turning religion into a public identity and marketable concept is not new. From the Puritans to modern evangelical megachurches, American Christianity has always been tied to visibility and influence. The very founding of the United States was shaped by biblical references. From the sermons of the First Great Awakening in the 18th century to the religious rhetoric of the American Revolution, by the 20th century, religion and media became intertwined. The rise of televangelists in the 1970s and 1980s, such as Jerry Falwell, Oral Roberts, and Pat Robertson, introduced the template for Jesus as a media brand. Their programs did not merely preach the gospel, they sold books, asked for donations, and endorsed political candidates. In this way, faith began to function like a product, marketed, consumed, and moan etized.to. The political branding of Jesus politics in America cannot be understood without considering religion. From Ronald Reagan's City on a Hill to George W. Bush's public prayer sessions, presidential candidates have consistently appealed to Christian voters by aligning themselves with Jesus. The invocation of Christ in campaigns is not only about shared values, it is a branding strategy designed to create emotional loyalty among religious voters. Candidates frame themselves as defenders of Christians' America. Jesus becomes a political mascot, his image leveraged to signal moral authority, patriotism, and legitimacy. Campaign slogans like "In God We Trust" or "God's Plan for America" are less about theology and more about marketing. In this way, Jesus functions as a political logo. Much like Nike's swoosh or Apple's bitten apple, the result is a distortion of faith into partisanship. Democrats, wary of alienating secular voters, have often ceded the Jesus brand to Republicans. This has allowed one party to monopolize religious symbolism, weaponizing Jesus as a partisan identity marker rather than a unifying spiritual figure. 3. Jesus and the economics of faith. In addition to politics, Jesus has become a driving force in American consumer culture. The religious economy of the United States is massive. Christian publishing, broadcasting, music, apparel, and tourism generate billions of dollars annually. Churches themselves, particularly often resemble corporations more than sacred spaces. The commodification of Jesus appears everywhere. Books and media, Christian bestsellers like The Purpose-Driven Life or Left Behind sell millions of copies. Worldwide merchandise, from t-shirts reading "Jesus is my homeboy" to mugs hats, and bumper stickers. The commercialization of Christian identity creates a visible consumer brand. Entertainment, Christian films, streaming channels, and music festivals package faith as lifestyle entertainment. This market thrives because Jesus sells. Faith becomes not only a matter of belief, but also a matter of consumption. Buying Christian products is marketed as a way to signal loyalty, identity, and belonging. 4. The rise of the megachurch and corporate. Faith megachurches represent the clearest example of Jesus as a brand, with stadium seating, professional lighting, rock-style worship bands, and multi-million-dollar budgets. These institutions blur the line between church and corporation. Leaders of these churches function like CEOs. Sermons are carefully crafted for broad appeal. Branding strategies are employed to attract audiences, and donations are solicited through polished campaigns. Many megachurches even run bookstores, coffee shops, and online stores, turning worship into a complete consumer experience. The branding extends to personalities. Figures like Joel Osteen or T.D. Jakes are not only pastors, but also global brands, selling books, hosting TV shows, and maintaining lucrative speaking tours. Their image becomes inseparable from the image of Jesus they present, a highly motivational, prosperity-centered Christ who blesses financial success. Point 5. Jesus in advertising and consumer culture. One of the most striking developments in recent decades is the appearance of Jesus-like imagery in mainstream advertising. Campaigns for clothing, soft drinks, or even political causes have used religious references to attract attention and spark controversy. The logic is simple. Jesus carries immediate recognition and emotional resonance. Using his name or image grants instant authority, credibility, and moral appeal. But this also means that sacred symbols are stripped of meaning and reconfigured as marketing tools. Jesus becomes less a savior and more a logo, an instantly recognizable brand marker, like Coca-Cola or McDonald's. This trend reveals how capitalist culture consumes everything, including spirituality. In such a landscape, even Christ can be packaged, priced, and promoted. 6. The dangers of branding the divine. While the commodification of Jesus may generate political loyalty and economic profit, it comes with profound risks. Distortion of theology, the teachings of humility, sacrifice, and compassion are often overshadowed by prosperity gospel messages that link faith to wealth. Partisan division, invoking Jesus as a political brand, divides the nation, creating an artificial boundary between real Christians and everyone else. Exploitation of believers, marketing. Jesus turns faith into a product, encouraging believers to express devotion through consumption rather than reflection or service. Erosion of authenticity. When Jesus is treated like a brand, faith risks becoming indistinguishable from advertising, undermining its sacred core. In short, the Jesus brand benefits politicians and corporations more than it benefits communities or spiritual life. Point 7. Case studies. Jesus as a brand in action, the moral majority, 1980s. Jerry Falwell's political coalition explicitly branded Jesus as a conservative political symbol, reshaping American electoral politics. WWJD. Bracelets, 1990s. What began as a youth ministry tool became a massive commercial trend, demonstrating how a spiritual question could become a fashion accessory. Prosperity gospel, televangelism. Figures like Benny Hinn or Kenneth Copeland have built empires, selling the idea that donating money to their ministries brings divine financial blessings. Political campaigns. Donald Trump's Bible photo op in 2020 became an iconic moment of religious branding, sparking both outrage and support, but undeniably using Jesus for political theater. 8. Resisting the brand. Calls for authenticity. Critics from both inside and outside the church warn against the branding of Jesus. Theologians argue that Christianity should resist the pressures of consumerism and partisanship, returning to the radical teachings of the gospel. Activists call for separating church and state more clearly, to prevent the manipulation of voters through religious branding. Grassroots movements emphasize service over spectacle, small community churches over megachurch empires, and faith expressed through action rather than consumption. These efforts remind Americans that Jesus was not a product to be sold, but a teacher and revolutionary who challenged the powers of wealth and empire. 9. The future of Jesus as a brand. Trajectory of American culture suggests that the branding of Jesus will only intensify. As digital media expands, religious influencers on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram already package faith into short, shareable, monetized content. Political candidates continue to deploy religious imagery in increasingly sophisticated campaigns. Corporations, eager to tap into religious markets, will further blur the lines between faith and commerce. Whether America can reclaim an authentic vision of Jesus or whether the brand will permanently overshadow the gospel remains an open question. Conclusion. In the United States, Jesus has become more than a religious figure. He has become a brand. Politicians use his name for votes, corporations sell his image for profit, and churches often operate as businesses rather than spiritual sanctuaries. This transformation of Jesus into a commodity distorts the core of Christianity and manipulates believers for political and economic gain. Yet the story is not without hope. Every branding campaign invites resistance, and many Americans are questioning the commercialization of their faith. To remember Jesus not as a brand, but as a radical teacher of love and justice is the challenge that lies ahead in a society where nearly everything is for sale. The task of protecting the sacred from the marketplace is difficult but essential. Otherwise, the gospel risks becoming just another product, and Jesus, rather than being the Son of God, will remain merely another logo in the crowded marketplace of American culture.